Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry about the delay. I now call this regularly scheduled meeting to order. Dr. Allen, would you lead us in prayer?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
That's better. Let us bow our heads in a word of prayer, please. Dear God, as the members and visitors gather here tonight for this Blackstone Town Council meeting, help them to look towards you for their guidance and inspiration. As you, O Lord, have granted us a newness of life through climactical change of seasons, likewise grant these town council leaders a freshness of wisdom to make each moment count for the benefit of this Blackstone community and those who travel through it. Provide these town council leaders with relevant truths amidst differing viewpoints and help them conduct themselves with respect and with fairness. Let them strive together towards fruitful outcomes for the benefit of this community. Give these elected leaders peace in their hearts and the strength to sustain the task that may lay before them as they work diligently towards the common objectives of unity and progress. In the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus the Christ, we say amen.
Amen.
Amen. Let us stand, please, for our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was the easy part.
I have a couple of announcements to make. Jennifer Daniel is on a holiday that could not be avoided. I've served council 114 meetings, I believe, I've been to, and it's the first time Jennifer hadn't been here, so it's nice to see you. Our treasurer, Miss Brittany, but she's going to be sorely missed. Also, I'm gonna make a change tonight, the way we do business. And from going forward, I'm gonna ask council through a motion to approve our agenda. And if the agenda needs to be amended, we'll have a motion for that too. After having an excellent conversation with our town attorney and doing some soul searching, I don't want to give the appearance that the mayor is keeping items off of the agenda. This is the council's meeting, and I want the council to have some say-so about the agenda. So, any questions, council? Councilwoman Williams will not be here tonight. She has a work commitment. Also want to let you know, in the case of a tie, I'll be called upon to cast the deciding vote. I voted as enough in my 8 years as a council member, so hopefully y'all will get a vote passed tonight without me having to intervene. Tonight we have one public hearing, and that's concerning revising the town's utility bills due date. Mr. Van Ormick, has the hearing been legally and properly advertised?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I tell you, I've had a bad night, and I appreciate everybody's patience.
As substitute motion, I'd like to add a closed session personnel under our closed session.
Is there a second to the,
Hold on. Yeah, I would like to add some on unfinished business
okay,
for this, Memorial Day Veterans Program coming up.
Mhm.
And the, Veterans Day,
all right, under unfinished business or new business?
under unfinished business.
Veterans Day, and what was the other one? The Memorial Day?
Memorial Day.
Is that one item or two items?
I guess if we could combine it.
Okay, so we're talking about these memorial services, is that correct? Okay, so I have closed session added for personnel, is that correct?
Correct.
And I have a add to unfinished business, Veterans Day, Memorial Day services. Is there any other additions?
Is personnel enough, or does it have to be department listed? Can you just say closed session personnel, or does it have to have more?
Once we go into closed session, we'll have to say a little bit more than that. But as for now, yeah, that's fine.
Well, I don't mind saying what it's for, we're gonna do it anyway. It's concerning the hiring of a new DBI director. Okay. Any other additions? May I have a second to Mr. Almond's motion to amend the agenda and approve as presented?
And I'll amend my motion to include Mr. Miller.
Thank you, sir. I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
This motion carries 6-0. All right, now, let's get back to the public hearings. We have one public hearing tonight, and that's about the town's utility due date. And Mr. Blumberg, you did say it's been legally advertised?
It is.
And would you please proceed?
As you ladies and gentlemen know, and those in the audience may know, the General Assembly has changed the way that municipal and gas suppliers and utility providers in the state of Virginia are able to disconnect service. The state has adopted a legislation that requires all utility providers, and those specifically that are not governed by the State Corporation Commission, which are municipals, okay? Governed by the State Corporation Commission would likely be Dominion or Appalachian Power or cooperative providers. There was an exception made. Originally, it was 60 days before you could cut a customer off after the account goes into arrears. For municipals or non-State Corporation Commission regulated utilities, that's been changed to 45 days, and I believe that's going to pass, and it has passed both houses, and as we're approaching July, when it would go into effect, I assume the governor has signed. If he has not, I'm quite surprised. In order to make this happen, that would add 60 days to someone's account from the time that account goes into and becomes delinquent or in arrears. What we have before you is something that was a recommendation out of the Health and Ordinance Committee, and it is a modification back to the way the town collected utilities for many, many years. We previously gave 15 days from the date of the utility bill before it came into arrears. We changed that probably 8 or 10 years ago to 30 days. And we're recommending going back to 15 days as a result of the state's mandate to allow 45 days from the date the account goes into arrears. Okay, so really, it'll be 30 days after the end of the month in which the bill was issued. Okay, so we're basically going back to what we were, and it's going to reduce by 15 days the number of days before we can cut off or collect our monies and that sort of thing. And this was recommended by the Health and Ordinance Committee.
Members of council, do you have any questions or comments before I open the public hearing?
I was gonna make a comment. It's, while the bill will say it's due 15 days earlier than the normal date, any penalties or fees or anything negative won't be until your typical 30-day due date, wherever that lines up on the bill. So it's your due date on your bill, but nothing particularly changed other than just the date on there.
Well, actually, it's the first.
Mr. Miller, Mr. Miller?
I'm so sorry.
Excuse me.
So basically, if you keep doing what you're already doing, you're fine, right?
For the most part, you have additional time as a consumer, because right now the bill would logically be due or typically due on the 30th of the month or the last working day, and then we would give you 10 additional days, and then 5 additional days after that before cutoff actually takes place. There are some notification requirements, as you're aware, that are not in this ordinance, but the state legislation does require us to notify customers now of the pending disconnection. In addition, it also has some temperature requirements. Above 92 degrees, we cannot cut off when forecast, or below 32 degrees, if I'm not mistaken. So there's going to be some changes in the way we're doing things, and I do believe this is a small step towards it, reducing the impact of the legislation that we're seeing.
Mr. Gormas?
Councilman Almond said, it's the 30 days, but it's 30 days before it's cut off, but it's due on the 15th, but the penalties start on the 1st. You're late if you don't pay on the 1st. Yeah, first day of the following month. But from there.
But as of the 16th, you're in arrears, and that's when the 45 days start.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
Correct.
So it's an extra, it's technically an extra 15 days than what we have now.
Ms. Nguyen, do you have any comments?
I understood it before.
Anything else, Mr. Manager? At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to come and speak for or against the town's new policy concerning the utility bill? Anybody for or against? With none wanting to speak, I'm gonna close this public hearing. Members of council, what's your pleasure?
Make a motion to go forward with proposed changes.
So moved.
Mr. Almond has moved and Mr. Miller has second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to adopt this revised utility due date policy. I believe, it's a policy, so I'll go with an abundance of caution and do a roll call vote, and I'll begin with Ms. Nguyen.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Motion carries 6-0. That's all for the public hearings. Members of council, you have before you 2 sets of minutes. You have the option of taking them both up, or you may separate them. May I have a motion for approval?
Make a motion we approve both sets of minutes.
And dispense with the reading, sir?
Dispense with the reading.
Mr. Miller has moved. May I have a second? Mr. Almond, second. Are there any comments about these 2 sets of minutes? Rough night. Hearing none, I'll ask for a voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 6-0. There are 2 opportunities for citizens to address the council, now and at the conclusion of council's business. Members of council, we have four slated visitors tonight, and after that, we'll hear from anyone else. Mr. Ed Clark, Lakeview Cemetery. A little assistance here, Mr. Manager. We have a letter from Mr. Clark. I haven't reviewed the policy enough to know, is that suffice to get an exception, or does we need a personal appearance?
I think a personal appearance, because the policy does say it's supposed to be an organization. And Mr. Page called me today and asked if if this gentleman represented any particular organization, and I told him I did not know if they were. We would find out tonight when Mr. Clark was here. I would refrain from it. I think that the intention was to try to put these out for Memorial Day, but Mr. Clark didn't make an appearance. And there was a second gentleman that called me and said he also was going to be here. Neither are here tonight. But for everybody's knowledge, our policy in the Lakeview Cemetery does require the placement of American flags or Confederate flags to meet the town council to approve the organization that would like to do that. If that is done and followed, those flags would not be removed during the annual cleanup, and it's number 11 right there at the bottom of the first page. And it says, if placing American Confederate flags on public graves is a service, it shall be done by a recognized organization approved by council, the local VFW, local Sons of Confederate Veterans Chapter, Cub Scout Pack, Betty Branham, who coordinates with the Junior ROTC, and I don't know if that's the case. I think Betty has passed. And the Vietnam Vets, Heartland Chapter. These flags will be exempt from the annual cleanup in March. If you guys remember, I spoke with you, and we did remove the Confederate flags during the cleanup. Got a couple phone calls with having the flags. We advised them they needed to come to town council and speak. But if we're following the policy, and I think that's the intention, I'm not sure what the designated organization is that wants to put the Confederate flags out.
It says on the letter, but I can't make it out right. It says member of 828 Pennsylvania something.
I think that's his address. He's in Pennsylvania County.
If I had to wager, I seem to recall it was the Sons of Confederate Soldiers, but if you, let's take this up on the 5th. We're gonna continue this meeting. Can you have the clerk, when she gets back, contact this gentleman and tell him that we'll take it up on the 5th? Okay, so we'll move right along to the second visitor, and I guess that's Mr. Floyd Hill.
You need a motion to table that to the 5th, don't you?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it probably would be best to have.
Are you providing that motion, Mr. Page?
I have none.
So it's not tabling, we'll be deferring. Tabling will be the end of this night. So we'll postpone this action until
Yeah.
June the
postpone.
5th. Is that correct? Mr. Page has moved and, Mr. Nash is second. Any discussion? I ask for a voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 6-0. We straight, Brittany? Well, okay. Is Mr. Floyd Hill here? Would you come to the podium, sir? Mr. Hill, if you wouldn't mind, for the record, would you state your name and address, sir?
Yes, Floyd Hill, 707 Luke Street, Blackstone, Virginia.
Good to see you tonight. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, yes, we put in a request for the close, the top of Luke and the stop sign at Fall. I think it's not, I forgot the street name. Anyway, my son is coming home out of military, and this be the first time he been home in I don't know, almost a year now, and he done got married and everything. So me and my wife couldn't make the wedding, so we're gonna just do a family thing for him when he do come home. And that's what we request, if we could get the street locked off.
Well, first of all, please thank your son for his service, and we appreciate that. I know being away from home is a tough thing, too. The second thing is, Miss Williams is not here tonight, and it's in her ward, and she asked some questions, and I don't really have the clarity that I would like from what we sent out letters to your neighbors and stuff.
Yes, sir.
If we're gonna come back on the 5th of June, would that be too late to give you an answer?
I mean, I gotta go with it,
Well, would it put you out? Would it inconvenience you terribly?
sir.
Would it inconvenience you terribly to wait until the 5th? What is it, less than 2 weeks?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I would-
Is
I
that
just
agreeable to
have wait.
council, or Mr. Miller had brought this to my attention, or do you want to take it up now?
I don't think there's anything we can do because,
Out of respect for Carolyn.
yeah, out of respect for her, we can't do anything.
Is that agreeable to you, sir?
Yes, sir.
We'll put that on the agenda, please. All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right, the next scheduled visitor is Miss Sharika Williams. Miss Williams here? Mr. Manager, you want to take the request up with her absent, or what do you want to do?
I don't see anything noxious here or any requested deviation from the policy. And she'd spoken with Jennifer and asked if she could be on the agenda, but I don't see anything that would make it to be any issue or problematic. And obviously, they have to be done by 10 o'clock. I would move forward with this particular request.
Members of council, you've heard the manager's statement. What's your pleasure?
Normally closes at dark, correct?
Normally closes at dark, but this says 7:30 was when they would close the application. So, depending on the time of year. 10 o'clock is what the policy says they have to be done.
Thank you, sir.
Is there a motion?
I motion to approve the request.
Mr. Page has moved and Mr. Nash is second. Is there any discussion? I ask for a voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. The fourth visitor on the slate is Mr. James Crawley. Mr. James Crawley of Luke Street. That's right. It's good to see you again, sir. Yes, ma'am. The best for last, right?
Yes, my name is James Crawley, 902 Luke Street, Blackstone, Virginia. We're here to check on the status of the speed bumps. We still having speeders. So we just want to know how far we done got since the last time we was here.
I have referred this to the Street and Light Committee, and I do not know if they've had a chance to meet or not. Chairman Miller, have you met?
We haven't had,
Probably in a couple of weeks we'll have a meeting.
Right.
next couple of weeks, we're having speed bump?
It's gonna go to the committee in a couple weeks, and they'll come back to the council probably the third Monday of June with a recommendation.
Okay, so I come back then.
Yes, sir.
No, he said
We'll be back.
third week of June.
Good to see y'all.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all for coming. He's gonna ask you to call one, that's correct.
No, I have another one for that meeting.
Beg your pardon?
I have another meeting, I have another recommendation for speed bumps at that meeting.
Okay, okay. At this time, is there anyone would like to come address council before we move on? Okay, and I'll point out again, at the end of the council's business, there'll be another time for the audience to speak to council. Moving right along, Fire Chief, Beers, would you come forward, please, sir? Thanks for being here tonight. Would Chief Tomer out?
Sir. Bizarre is, it's whatever you want it to be, sir. Good evening. Start from the top. I spoke with Philip a couple weeks ago about hydrant maintenance. Did you get my message about that? So, moving along with that. Dion's at work tonight, so y'all have to put up with me for a little bit. Tower 6 is now in service. We have 4 people that are cut loose to drive that currently. So we're going to take that to structure fires in town, out of town, and mutual aid. So if somebody from Dinwiddie calls and needs it, we can go there. But it's 4 of us right now that are cut loose on it, and we have 5 people going through the clearance process currently. So it should be about another month or 2 for them, and we'll have some more people cut loose. We have a guy coming down June 6th, 7th, and 8th to do a advanced class for us. John Burris down in Charlottesville. He does a lot of tower truck training with career departments like Richmond, Chesterfield, Henrico, things like that. So we're looking forward to that. The push-in ceremony, June 10th at 6 o'clock.
I'd like
It's a
to
Monday.
point out, if possible, we really should extend an invitation to Congresswoman Spanberger and her staffers who were
Absolutely.
super influential. And
You stole my line there. That's all right. Good for you. Also, would you please send a reminder to council about that? And did the county give us some money too?
They did.
So I think we should extend an invitation to the county as well.
I thought
Anybody
Dion
else
had,
that you could think of that we?
I thought Dion had spoken to somebody about that, setting it up. Okay.
I don't know, but
I'll send out
nevertheless, let's see
messages
it
and
gets
get it done.
done. Okay.
Sure.
I think the county made a fairly generous 200.
200.
$200,000.
So definitely. My phone just died, so let me look off here.
We
Cinco
like
de
brief.
Mayo.
We like brief presentations.
I am all for it. I am all for it. It's been a long day. You scroll down a little bit. Sorry, I'll put you to work. Next page. GIS mapping. So the county's putting this in for us. So in a nutshell, if we go out to Spainville Road, it's always Blackstone Crew and Burkeville get punched out for those fires when Amelia's closer. So it's going to be changed around. Hopefully that'll be Blackstone Crew, and then Company 1 and Amelia will come to help. So we're trying to do the first 2 in county, and then the next closest to us. So there's not like a long wait for our third due companies to get in. Engine 6 is out of service due into maintenance. I think they're already taking care of that with Tim and Dion. Captain Lee, 21 years. Firefighter Ben Howe, 20 years. Daniel Falwell, 10 years. And Tessa with 1 year. Tessa just completed her Firefighter 1, passed all her practicals, and waiting on her written test to come back.
Chief, I like to point out and recognize those of you that have completed 20 years of service. So if everyone would join with me to give Captain Lee Williams and Ben Hogg a round of applause. And the rest of you folks too, thank you so much.
And there's also one more thing, the surplusing of gear. I think it's like page 140 something towards the end. We did this last year.
It's a line item. It's in the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Want to take it up now while you're here?
That would be great.
All right.
We sent gear last year to.
Let me get council on the right page if you don't mind.
Sure.
Bear with me.
212.
Mine's not numbered, so what is it, new
I sent it
business?
to-
212.
to-
Yeah, it's on page 212.
I don't have, mine's not numbered, so is it new business?
Number one, new business.
Yeah.
One new business. Members of council, have you found that item? We're gonna take that up now. Go ahead, chief.
So, last year we surplus some gear that we sent to a fire department in Honduras. And those pictures are, right there. That was the gear we sent. We sent, 15 sets of gear to them that were 15 to 20 years plus out of date. And they went through a wildfire and they had put out a, notice to us and surrounding counties to get some gear. So Blackstone, Amelia, and I think Jetersville did to send some gear down for them. So I'm gonna butcher this name, but Nakayomi, Honduras, had a fire a couple months ago, and a lot of their trucks got burned up. A lot of their gear got burned up too. So we're going through old stock, and we have a set of gear. It's the next page down that we're going to surplus out. Just need to get the approval from you all to send some more gear down to them.
Members of council, you have in your package under new business number one, items that, are up for surplus. What is your pleasure?
Are we handling just the fire department items, or
Handle
we
this whole new business number one.
bus, electric, police, and all that?
Yes,
Philip, those other items are going up for auction, right?
yes, they,
The other items will go to auction?
They're going,
Gov.
the vehicles are going gov deals.
mhm.
I don't think the old computers and things necessarily do much on gov deals, so we may have to find another disposal process.
And that we use that money to buy new trucks and stuff.
A motion that we declare these items surplus?
Mr. Page moves, Mr. Nash second. Is there any other discussion?
Does the motion include all the items that are inside the, school building?
Whatever you've got listed here and,
All
is
items,
included in his motion.
all items, yeah.
All items are included. Any discussion, council? I ask for a voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Thank you, chief.
Thank you all so
Anything
much.
else? Thank you so much. Members of council, you now have before you two batches of bills. The first batch has been paid, but needs your approval. These bills total $1,904,000, $160.17. What's your pleasure, council?
Move to approve the total that you just said.
Yeah, really.
$1,904.
It didn't roll off my tongue like it normally.
Because of the Army rehab,
Yes.
2 armory invoices in there, plus the purchase of the bucket truck.
that's a huge number.
Let me get a second, please. Council, may I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Allman, second. Any other questions, Mr. Nash?
Zach left early, but the Virginia Fire Chiefs Association hotel stay reimbursement, $3,871. Is that for 3 nights? How many?
I thought it was a week, but I could be,
I don't know.
For how many people?
I can double check. I can double check. I'm not sure, because Mary handles accounts payable, so,
Get you a list and
but I can get it.
Okay.
And it says pass-through, so is that,
Oh, it is passed through?
They use their fire programs money.
Okay.
okay.
All right. I still think it would be advantageous for the council to get an email, and I appreciate you, Jack. Any other discussion, council? I'll ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Nguyen.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
This motion carries 6-0. The second batch of bills that you have in your packet are in the amount of $461,981.14. These bills need to be both approved and paid. What is the council's pleasure? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Nash moves. May I have a second? And Mr. Miller seconds. Any questions or discussion? I ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Nguyen.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
That motion carries 6-0. Appropriations. Mr. Van Ormick, would you please brief the council on these appropriations listed in our council package?
I think Mr. Gorman will be very pleased. to see that we have the correct figure.
Everybody is.
Indicated to you at one time, I thought it was 25,000, but indeed, we have received $50,000 for this resurgence grant, which is a Groversity program. Jake can tell you as much, or Chastity, who've been working on it, but we are asking to appropriate that into this fiscal year's budget.
Do you need a separate appropriation motion for all this, or can you lump it up into one?
For all of what?
Is this, you've got several appropriations in here.
No, we'll have to handle them separately.
Right. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is this all one?
No, I would like a motion on each one,
Okay. Are you ready for motion on the resurgence grant?
please.
So moved on the $50,000 resurgence grant.
Mr. Nash moves, Mr. Almond second. Is there any questions or comments from council?
You said this was going back into our budget?
This is when you jump in.
Oh, I didn't know you were stumbling, I'm sorry.
Ms. Nguyen has a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You said this would be going back into our current budget?
Yes, ma'am, in our current budget.
Cool.
It's an appropriation, it's a grant. We've received the cash, we're appropriating, and now we can spend it.
Well, it says use, I mean, so I guess that's Groversity Resurgence.
Mr. Harv, while you're handy, I may ask some stupid questions. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
On these appropriations, I don't see one, do we have one over 10,000? I would guess that we do, that I wouldn't have to have a 2/3 vote to appropriate, but I want to make sure while you're here. Just do it, is abundance of
I
caution?
don't think you do. Yeah, I mean, why don't we see if we run into that issue?
Well, we are the last appropriation.
You certainly, one thing, you certainly could appropriate everything at once. It sounds like that might not be the pleasure of the town manager, but if you wanted to in the future, you could. Just want to throw it out there.
In case there's one that you're not gonna agree to, clearly we need to have that as a separate.
Okay, well, let's roll through them then, okay? But the last one, I will ask for a roll call vote. All right, your second one is insurance proceeds, is that correct, or was it?
That's correct for a Babs bus.
Okay. Members of council, any questions, or may I have a motion?
We still on the first one?
No.
No, we're on the
No,
second
that
one.
motion carries
Oh,
6-0.
that's right.
Mr. Nash moved, Mr. Almond second. Okay,
This is for insurance proceeds for that.
correct.
Move to approve.
Mr. Nash moves, may I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Almond second, any discussion? All those in favor to make this appropriation indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. The third one I see is insurance proceeds for
Another Babs bus accident.
okay, another Bass bus. Mr. Nash, you moving to approve this?
Yes.
And Mr. Almond, second? Any discussion? All those in favor to approve indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? What's so funny, birthday boy?
You just volunteered my second, but I'll take it.
I ascertained, I didn't volunteer. I guess this is the fourth one, insurance proceeds on who?
Police department.
Police department. Okay, I see it now. And is there a second down this way?
Second.
Mr. Page seconds. Mr. Nash moves, Mr. Page seconds to approve this appropriation. Is there any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there any objection? Motion carries 6-0. Police Department for insurance proceeds of $1,427.44. Is there a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Mr. Nash moves. May I have a second?
What is, yeah, I'll second it so I can talk
Mr.
about it.
Gorman, second.
What is a Sally Port?
Their garage door at the PD.
The safe way to get people.
So the insurance proceeds were received to pay for repairs, tire, front clip of vehicle have to be
This is the explanation that was on the Versa.
ripped off by strong water flow.
Chief, would you like to elaborate?
I think it was during that, when we had that.
I'm seeking to understand real strong right now, man. I'm like,
So we had a terrible rainstorm and the streets were flooded, and Tony went to back out to go on the call when there was a vehicle right under the bridge right here that was submerged in water.
oh,
And when
okay.
he backed out, the water was running so strong, it ripped the whole front, all the plastic off the front of his car.
It's
I remember too.
ripped the
It was,
vehicle.
that was the Little Nottaway River
I
out
got
there.
you, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Question, but all these insurance proceeds, do we have deductibles on these, or is it?
Yeah, $500 deductible, I think, on all of them. I'd have to double check, but I think it's $500.
anything else, Mr. Gorms?
No, sir.
That was a great question.
I know what a Sally Port is now.
Okay. Well, that's good.
I don't know why it's called that, but I'll go there
Give
sometime
you something to rejoice
at a
about.
later date.
Mr. Nash has moved, Mr. Gormas the second to approve this appropriation in the amount of $1427.44. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Last one, Mr. Van Orvik.
Voltage regulators, which are located at the West Entrance Road transmission station, were hit by lightning. I can't tell you the exact date, but we did have a blowout and caused by lightning, and the insurance company did provide us an amount of $26,597.02 to cover the cost for that.
Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Nash moves. May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Gormas delightfully seconds.
Is that the full amount of
So how's the
total
voltage
work that
regulator?
need to be done?
Levitine,
Well, I'm
Bradford,
sure it didn't include the deductible.
Mayor Colvin, I know you're here.
Yes, it's
I can
further
pull
than-
it.
I was just curious if.
I don't think that it was, though. I don't think.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Nguyen.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Take care of that.
Wasn't it?
All right, let's move on to committee reports. Tonight, we have two committee reports, the first being Health and Ordinance. Chairman Allman, would you or Manager Van Orbeck care to report?
Yep. I think you handled the item, the first item, utility billing.
Right?
Second item, utility software. I think there were some discussions about maybe making some changes away from Brighton Associates and maybe some other alternatives. We've been having trouble with the server, the AS400, which is associated with the Bright system, and we had to do $4,700 of repairs to the system so that we could continue doing backups on the system. That work has been done. We're out of the serious time, and but I do think we still want to, and we have included in our proposed budget presented to council, I think $69,000 to begin the process of replacing Bright and Associates software package with maybe a little user-friendly and consumer-friendly package out there.
Yeah, we had with seeing such a strong want for budget billing in town, I'd like to see if we can find software that can handle that. Bright didn't seem to handle that very well. Like something a little more user-friendly. That, and we spend an outrageous amount on postage. So I'd also like to see if we can get a paperless option. I know that's not everybody's favorite, but I think we can save a little money there and be a little better for the environment. And a lot of these softwares can include a lot of things like meeting schedules and all sorts of things that we currently don't offer to our consumers. So I'd like to start the process at Shop Around. And I've spoken with numerous department heads about it, and I think it's a good idea.
You gonna try to budget something this year, or
I think Phil put some in the budget.
put some in the budget for us?
$69,000 when you look at the budgets already.
Okay, outstanding. Members of council?
Are we looking at other alternative forms of payment for this as well, like, Apple Pay and all that? And then second, are we looking for username and passwords for accounts that the user can create on their own? That way it's more
I think
secure for
that
them to
will
get in and
permit
make
us
their
to.
payment?
Yeah, I think that will certainly, that will most likely be the direction that any modern software takes. I can't speak to where that is on the priority list. We can talk about that as council as we get some feedback. I asked the department heads if they could schedule 2 or 3 of the most popular, meet with their sales, and the committee submitted a list of questions to ask. And alternative payment was on there, and we can add username and password to it.
I think security's probably, it's so easy to get into somebody's account nowadays on our site. All right, thank you.
Anything else? Anything else about this? Members of council, you have any questions about the report?
The last one is food trucks.
Sorry about that, Mr. Holman.
Last one's food trucks on there. We've been, one of the things we've been tasked with by the state, or when I say us, I mean Downtown Blackstone Incorporated, DBI, been tasked with soliciting restaurants, and their suggestion was to have food truck night. So I'm looking for a little relief on the food truck fees to try to help entice them to come here. we plan to do it on Mondays, mobile Mondays. It used to be the day when most of the restaurants were closed to have the least impact on our brick and mortar. And plan on setting up something behind the square.
But you're not ready for a recommendation yet?
I'd like for our attorney to look at it and make sure we're being reasonable with it, so.
Good. Bring it back on the third Monday of June? Outstanding. Anything else?
Something else.
Hold on, hold on. What do you say, Mr. Miller?
What is the price for a food truck now?
It's $500. 500.
Annual.
I know you pay one time, that's it.
And then there's $5,000 surety bond that's included.
How much is that?
I couldn't tell you exactly what one will cost an insurance company, but it's in the value of $5,000. But
Couple $100? Yep. Mr. Gormas?
Part of the discussion also during utility bill talk was, I asked about if we maintain a list of addresses that shall not be turned off for sake of life, because people rely on electricity, and regardless of the situation, if they have valid proof, medical issues documented, that they shouldn't be. We don't have that, as a town, we don't have that list. And I think that's something we want to work towards having. I'm not sure what the next step is, but that's something
Please include that in your
That would-
recommendation to council.
would add
Okay,
value.
that'd be the next step.
Okay.
Have you guys come up with any ideas for the food truck? I mean, is there any other business that we require to get a bond?
we have
To operate?
contractors and that sort of thing that work for the town
But like
for
a-
certain amounts, but no, as far as the business license go, that's the only itinerant merchants. It's not food trucks, it's for itinerant merchant. Anybody that's a traveling salesperson or they want to set up a mobile food, frozen steaks or something like that, we had that last year.
Fireworks out at the shopping center and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
people sell furniture down there or that sort of thing. So it's not just for food truck, but food truck fall into that category of itinerant merchant. It's a catch-all term
They
for
pay meals
peddler's
tax too.
license.
They pay meals tax too, don't they?
They would pay meals tax, that's correct.
We pay meals tax. We asked if there was a way we could have a slightly higher rate on either meals tax or sales tax. If there was a way to still give preference to our brick and mortar businesses, but make it so that if somebody wants to come in, for instance, the lobster roll truck, where they don't have to shell out $500 before they even sell the first item.
I think it's a little harsh. It's a policy that discourages business.
I look forward to your report. Anything else? This second committee meeting was Accountant Finance. Chairman Nash or Manager Norbick, would either one of you care to report?
There probably was not a whole lot to discuss or to bring forth to council yet.
No, I don't see any
Agency
action.
funding was really the only thing, the second item on there, and that's done within the budget, really. Philip, do you remember anything in particular?
I think some of the things that we need to have in our back of our minds when we were thinking about, obviously the budget, capital improvement plan, all those kind of things to discuss, but this is a specific year or a particular year that we're facing a reassessment. So you're going to have to look at equalization of rates. So that's going to be something that everybody's going to have to decide how they want to go about doing that. Do you want to equalize? Do you want to, by leaving the rate the same or not reducing it enough, it would actually be a tax increase? We also have the issue of personal property tax, where we're still giving a 60% benefit or a relief rate. And the county now, current year, is at 41%. Do we want to make any adjustments, those kinds of things? And then looking at some tiers in the electrical rates, especially for larger commercial users, excuse me, larger commercial users, trying to bring those rates in line to at least cover the cost of the purchase of power.
Why don't we do this? The meeting that we're gonna continue tonight to the 5th is a budget workshop. So maybe the week before, I would ask you to have a list to send to the council to be thinking about ahead of time before we come in there, including these things. And if there's anything else that you might think that the members that aren't on the committee, and that might make the meeting go smoother too. Outstanding points, Mr. Manager. Anything else, Mr. Chairman?
That was it.
All right, thank you. An excellent report from both committees. We'll move on to unfinished business number 1. And this is the liability workers' comp insurance, and I believe Manager Van Orbeck is requesting to award this bid. Mr. Van Orbeck.
It's workers' comp liability, vehicle, automobile, all those kinds of things, all combined. Does not include airport, does not include fire department apparatus, and doesn't include health insurance. Okay, but it basically covers the rest. We received 2 proposals. We've solicited bids. The insurance committee, I think, has heard proposals from both organizations, and I think there were some questions whether we were legitimately an apples-to-apples comparison, and so we had those responses come back, and there was some adjustment in price. And it says 2 proposals for liability and workers' comp insurance were received for fiscal year 25. Our current carrier is Versa, and it's the Virginia Risk Sharing Association, and their proposal for the upcoming year for renewal is $237,088. The second proposal is from Vacor in the amount of $196,831. Vacor has provided 2 options in their response. The first is intended to mirror the current coverages, and the second is being recommended by Vacor. Please see attached a comparison between both options, and if option 2 from Vacor is selected, it will be $215,080 annually. So, you got 3 options here.
Well,
Steve?
Mr. Gorman, are you the chair of this committee?
I am, but I missed the meeting that also was presented. I've looked over this some, but I can't speak to it with any intelligence at this point. I know the reason that the 215, what makes it better than the.
There's some higher coverages. I don't have it in front of me.
Coverage
Miller
than,
has a question too.
than Versa had.
I get you a comparison between option 1 and option 2.
I apologize for not.
It's on page 129 is the comparison.
Okay.
It gives you apples to apples on the 2 Vacor options.
Mr. Miller, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm looking at this, says human resources. How deep do they go?
I think the committee discussed with them that they do have a third-party consulting service that will respond to human resource questions or concerns, any of those. There it is, right there. Questions or concerns that you have. So you know, Versa is the former Virginia Municipal League, and they serve mostly towns and cities. And Vacor is primarily the old Virginia Association of Counties insurance, but they do provide insurance for school systems and for towns and cities as well.
Maybe expand on Mr. Miller's question about the human resources. So would this take the place of our own human resource officer?
No, I don't think it takes the place of somebody, but it does give you a resource and an outlet in which the mayor or chairman of the police employment committee need to call, and they can speak and communicate with those folks and ask questions. So they do have that service, and that was asked in the committee.
You have any more further questions about that, Mr. Miller?
I have a few questions.
I'm still requesting one.
Right.
I have no question.
I've got a few questions. I'm
All
sorry.
right, Mr. Page.
Thank you. How many claims are we making a year under this policy? Currently?
We just approved 5.
Jackie, what do you think? Give me a number.
Because it includes automobile, right? Yeah.
Like you said, we just approved 5, and that
And then with workers' comp and all that,
that's not even.
Are a lot of them over $250,000 or whatever these minimums are, these
one
maximums
that
are?
was 238,000, if I'm not mistaken, which was one of the generators had a coolant issue. I guess the thermostat went down on it, and we had to rework several of the pistons and the crankshaft in the diesel engine. That was the biggest claim that I can remember.
It's 238?
238,000.
Anything else, Mr. Page?
No, I'm sorry, thank you. Yeah, and while we do have a comparison between VA Corp 1 and 2, we don't have a comparison how those match up with what we currently have.
Well, VA Corp Package 1 is supposed to
Matches the
be
current.
matching the current, yes.
What is the price of the Versa package 1?
237.
Gotcha.
So
088, I think. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'd save $40,000 if you go with package 1.
And have that human resource tool available too, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there any other discussion? I assume you'd like a vote tonight?
Be preferable if the chairman's okay with that, or if you want to wait.
No, I'm good.
I'll yield the floor for a motion, Mr. Gormas.
Well, how about that? Honestly, I mean, you're looking at what, still 22,000 less than what we currently have. If we stick with what we have, to have more coverage, it seems with this option 2 of VACOR.
Sure would like to get a motion and then
Yeah, well, I mean,
discuss.
anybody can make a motion.
Well, I'm
just saying.
referring to you because it's your committee.
Do we have a recommendation from the town manager?
My recommendation is VACOR package number 2. And,
That's what I was leaning on.
yeah. And there are, if you look at some of those environmental liabilities, look at those deductibles.
The deductible goes from 250 to 225.
Dramatic, yeah.
Yeah. So
And that package is 196,
that's 215.
215, okay.
And
215,
it has
080.
and provides
Okay.
a higher level of coverage than the 237
Yeah.
from Versa, according to
Okay,
Yeah, I would move to that. I'd make a motion that we go with option 2
VACOR.
of VACOR. Definitely, it seems to be the most cost effective.
Mr. Gormas has moved to accept VACOR's option number 2. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Nguyen seconds. Is there now discussion?
Have we ever, if package 1 is a mirror of what we have we ever paid a $250,000 deductible for an environmental liability?
We have not.
I was leaning towards one, and I'm fine either way, but I was leaning towards one, just knowing the little shortfall we have in the budget. with the
Yeah.
small things.
Yeah, and I'd like to actually make a secondary motion that we go with VA Corp Package 1 in the total of $196,831.
Mr. Page has made a secondary motion to go with option number 1 for 196,831. Do I have a second? Mr. Nash seconds. That motion takes precedence, so I will I'll ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Nguyen. Basically, Ms. Nguyen, if you vote aye, you're going for 1. No, we'll probably go back to 2.
No.
Aye.
Well, let me get my abacus out here.
No.
So what is it? You put me on the tiebreaker, right? All right, based on the fact that this, just a little bit more liability, you know, I think we would be wise to get the additional coverage. So I'm gonna break the tie. We're gonna go with the option number 2.
No, another
Well-
motion needs to be made.
Oh, wait a minute. It doesn't pass either way. You're right, thank you. No, I definitely need 5 to do this, so let's,
No, you need to vote. If you vote nay, then
I'm voting nay.
you're voting against
Right,
what the
so-
motion is. So that makes it
4-3,
4-3.
no. So let's go with, so now,
It's 3-3, wasn't it?
there's
It
6 and I
wasn't
said
until he
no.
voted.
Because of the price,
Right. You gotta have 5 votes, yeah.
Okay. Council, what's your pleasure?
Well, he had an original motion.
That motion failed, we'll go back to, thank you. You guys are helping me, I'm in a bad night.
Oh.
So
We
we're gonna
we
go back to.
voted on the secondary motion. He still had the
That-
original
And
motion.
that fails.
Right, now we have the
We're
original
going back to the
motion.
original
Yeah.
vote, and that is
option 2.
option 2.
That Ms. Nguyen second.
Any discussion?
Hey, option 2, that's the one that supposed to have this human resource.
Both option 1 and 2 does.
Both of them have it.
The option 2 that we're voting on now has much less deductibles in anything catastrophic.
That's the one that got this streamlined HMO, right?
This is not health insurance, this is for cars and physical insurance.
And option 1 is the exact same thing we have and what we've been using, but we just turned that down. But it's the exact same thing we've been using for years, right?
Right, let me get it, So we have
Both of them
a
are cheaper
motion
than
and a
what we
second.
had.
Mr. Gormas moved and Ms. Nguyen second. Now is a good time for discussion, Mr. Page. Did you have any more comments?
I was just clarifying, it's the exact same thing we've had for a long time. Option number 1 is, option 2 has more coverages, but
It has
obviously,
more coverage.
we don't save as
It's
much.
still less than the,
Still less than, yeah.
Saving, still saving money, correct. All right, I'm gonna ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Nguyen.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
All right, so that's 3-3, that's a 3-3 tie, and I'll vote yes, 4-3, motion fails. All right, we're gonna sit in for a long night, y'all gotta work this out.
You can bring it back up, this is just a thing.
No, we don't have a motion on the floor. If you'd like to make one, I'm glad to hear it.
Make a motion for option 2. Second.
Mr. Almond moves, Mr. Nash seconds, swimming into my head here, to go to option 2 with Vacor for a sum of $215,080.
Wait,
Is,
wait a minute,
237.
that just failed, didn't it?
We just voted and you failed that.
I know, we have a new motion from Mr. Alman,
It
Mr.
can only
Nash.
be brought up by the,
You voted against it, and
it
now
can
you're
only
making
be
a motion
brought
to
up by
do
the
it.
prevailing sign.
That was my birthday present to mess with them.
I'm sorry, I don't see the balloons.
All right, listen. There's a time for levity and there's a time for seriousness.
I agree.
It's time now to get down to brass tacks. All right, so,
I think what you're hearing from us is saying, it's gonna be a stalemate. We're saying, let's go forward with the higher premium, because we'll sit here all night. So that you're hearing from Jake saying, let's go, we'll vote for it.
who can make the motion?
I think actually it's someone who did not vote for the prior motion can make the new motion to.
Oh, that's right. There you go. Yeah, right, that's right, yeah.
So I have a motion by Mr. Alman and a second by Mr. Nash.
Cause y'all were in the prevailing sign.
Is there any more discussion? The motion on the floor is to go with option 2 with Vacor for $215,080.
And trust me, I know that we obviously have to accomplish this tonight, but we've gotta find another $20,000 to.
Actually, no, the budget includes the
I
renewal.
know, but we were gonna use that $50,000 savings.
Well, we're putting the cart before the horse here.
We don't want to stalemate, so just go ahead.
I ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Nguyen.
Aye.
Nay.
Motion carries 5-1.
I'm sorry, just for clarification, that was option 2, Vacor.
Yes, ma'am.
Both times.
At this point, I don't know what the world it was. I've lost my place, folks. So we're on unfinished business number 2, is that correct? All right, and this is, please find in your package the application for funding concerning the water line replacement in Taylor Bottom. Manager Van Orbit,
I
please
think-
save me.
I think we had talked about this one time before, but we have submitted an application to the health department. I think I've received permission by motion from you guys to make application. But now that we have it completed, we want y'all to take a look at it. If you go to the second page, and right there at the top, that'll tell you how much it is, $2,363,000, and that would replace the water system in the Taylor Bottom neighborhood, which would include Sullivan, Taylor, and Carver Streets. It would be my intention, if this were approved, that would be the town's match for a Taylor Bottom grant. There's also other activities that people want to undertake down there. There's drainage, there's housing, all those kinds of things. We'll talk to you about some electrical improvements down there. But we made the application, we submitted the application in the amount of $2,363,000.
The manager's requesting authorization to apply for this funding assistance. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Miller moves. May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Nguyen properly seconds. Is there any more discussion? Ask for roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Nguyen.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Motion carries 6-0. Unfinished business number 3, please find in your package the completed application for funding the replacement of the raw water line from the reservoir to our water plant on Fort
If you go to
Barfoot.
the second page of the application, Brittany. Man, look at the top, and that's a bigger number. And this is for the replacement of the raw water intake, pumps, and line, and it's $14,206,000. The number's a little inflated because the 10% contingency obviously adds $1,400,000 there. This project is, in my opinion, necessary simply because of the age of the line. It's the only connection that we have to the reservoir. It runs between the dam and the intake at the dam and the treatment plant, so it's untreated water being pulled out of the reservoir and sent to the treatment plant for treatment. This project, I believe, is necessary because the age, it was built in 1942, and I still think this is a multi-year project before we even get started. But in addition, in the event the state does decide that the town of Carew and the town of Blackstone can partner to provide water to the state facilities, it is going to be necessary, be required to do this, because the amount of water that Carew sells, believe it or not, is in excess of what the town of Blackstone sells. So we would upsize the line. This does not include the upsizing of lines on Route 40, Military Road on Post, or 10th Street. Okay, does not include that. That would be an additional approximately $10 million if we were to do that.
What's the match out of the 14 million?
No, it's not grant at this point. That's all loan. The expectation, this would be all loan. We hope for grant. We pray for grant. I think we looked at some numbers that Mac Bug put together for us, and the expectation that if crew does not come along,